A Hezbollah-fired drone targeted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's private residence in Caesarea. The drone exploded near his home, though Netanyahu and his wife Sarah were not present at the time. There were no injuries, but this marks the first time Netanyahu has been directly targeted since the war began. The attack highlights a troubling new vulnerability in Israel's defense system and also indicates that Hezbollah has identified Israel's blind spot. Hezbollah poses drones capable of hitting targets with an accuracy of just a few dozen meters. 2 weeks ago, a UAV hit Israel's Golani Brigade training base, killing 4 soldiers and injuring dozens. The drone was able to penetrate Israeli air defenses undetected and hit the base some 64 kilometers into Israel from the border. These attacks demonstrate the Hezbollah's growing aerial capabilities and the increasing difficulty that Israel faces in neutralizing these threats. Hezbollah often fires a barrage of rockets along with kamikaze drones that confuses the Israeli defense systems. Israel's missile defense systems, Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow are among the most advanced in the world. They are considered the best in the world. These anti-missile systems have consistently intercepted rockets and missiles launched by Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran with a high success rate. The Iron Dome is highly effective against short-range rockets, while David's Sling and Arrow target medium and long-range missiles. These together form a protective shield over Israel. The US-supplied third system, designed to defend against long-range missile threats, is also ineffective against these low-flying UAVs. The third system is presently deployed in Israel along with 100 US troops to operate them. However, drones are posing a different kind of challenge. Unlike rockets, drones move slowly and at low altitudes. This makes them difficult for Israel's radar systems to detect. Drones, often powered by quiet electric engines and built with minimal metal, easily slip past Israel's advanced radar. Where the missile defense systems fail, the Israeli Air Force is forced to scramble expensive helicopters and fighter jets, such as the F-35, to intercept drones. This creates an imbalance. Deploying a $100 million jet to take down a drone that might cost just $1,000. These drone attacks reveal critical weaknesses in Israel's otherwise sophisticated defense systems, marking a dangerous shift in the warfare. It's more worrying for Israel as Iran has one of the best arsenal of drones. And more than Hezbollah, perhaps, it's the fear of Iranian reprisal that is leaving Israel and its allies worried. Chris Doyle is the Director of Council for Arab-British Understanding and the current lead spokesperson for the Council. Mr. Doyle is now joining us live from London. Mr. Doyle, welcome to the program. This is a critical juncture for Israel. Hezbollah seems to have found a way to penetrate through Israel's defense system with the use of drones or UAVs. Could they potentially be a threat for Israel that they may not manage to control?
We've always known that Hezbollah has distinct abilities that are far in advance, for example, of those of Hamas in terms of missiles and also drones. It draws heavily, of course, Iranian backing and technology, and Iran has been buying even Russia with drones and missiles as well. So it certainly poses that sort of threat because there's no anti-missile system that is perfect. Israel took out 2 of the 3 drones that reportedly were used in this attack on the Israeli Prime Minister's residence in Syria, and could also use other means, which is just overwhelming through sheer numbers with missiles and drones. So for sure, it's not just individuals, it's key infrastructure as well that could be vulnerable. But I think we've also seen that Israel has its own capabilities that will in many ways diminish the threat from Hezbollah to a significant degree.
Mr. Doyle, talking about these vulnerabilities, how vulnerable is Israel when it comes to squadrons or drones warfare?
Well, it is vulnerable. It's got a lot of fronts, so it has to defend itself in a number of directions. So there could be launched from the north or arguably from the south. It's also had to defend itself from missile strikes from the Houthis in Yemen. They've been, I think, somewhat easier further away. But the challenge with Hezbollah is, of course, that it launches these drone attacks or missile attacks, obviously right on Israel's borders. So that means it can get that critical infrastructure, which it actually, in the north of the country, around cities like Haifa, in today's case, it was Caesarea. But we also saw, for example, that it got military training camp at Binyaminia. Not that long ago, it killed 4 Israeli soldiers. So, Israel is not going to be able to take on Hezbollah without consequences, militarily at a level, but it will, and I think, to be honest, most Israeli leaders and military figures acknowledge this, there will be a pain, there will be cost to this. It will not be a cost-free war. And in Gaza, I think it's been the case largely that, yes, there have been some Israeli soldiers killed over the last year, but largely Israel has had its own way the last 365 days.
Mr. Doyle, now that you've mentioned Gaza, let's talk about that and briefly talk about the impact following the death of Yahya Sinwar. Many hoped there will be progress in the ceasefire talks. That was not the case. Others thought that more or all hostages will be released. Again, that was not the case. What do you think is going to happen in the next weeks, or predict is going to happen in the next weeks or so?
Well, contrary to many observers, I actually don't believe that this is going to have a huge impact on the course of events in Gaza. Yahya Sinwar will just be the latest Hamas leader to have been taken out, to have been killed by Israeli forces.
We seem to have lost Mr. Doyle. I've been talking to Chris Doyle, who's the Director of Council for Arab-British Understanding and the current lead spokesperson for the Council. We seem to have lost him. But thank you, Mr. Doyle. If you get this message, thank you for talking to us today. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.